Let's talk about it. Yeah, let's talk about Diddy, man. You know, it's sad, bro. But this man was riding on his high horse. You know what I mean? This man was living his dream life all his life, you know, doing what he wanted to do, calling all the shots, making boss moves. You know what I'm saying? People listening to what he's saying, throwing all his major big parties, living his life, flying on private jets, eating caviar. And who knows, bro? 2025, he ring the new year in jail, looking to go to prison. You know what I mean? That ain't no life. That's crazy, you know? That's really bad, bro. It's a sad situation, man. I wish that I know nobody. Feel what I'm saying? But sometimes when you're so cocky, man, you know what I mean, you gotta humble sometimes. You're too cocky, you're getting too big for your britches. You think you're all that, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta just, take it easy, man. You could be out here right now, you know what I'm saying, going on a vacation, south of France with your family, living your dream, you know, flying on private jets, big yachts, just, people looking up to you like you God. When you talk, people shiver, man. The music industry, you got it on lock. Whatever you say goes. You don't do what I say. I blackballed you. You know what I mean? You can't put no record out. I shit on you. You know what I'm saying? That's a sad, you know what I'm saying? Sad situation for you, bro. And I really wish that on nobody, man. Nobody deserved that. But he kind of like do him to himself. He's kind of like messed up, man. Um, I'm gonna play a little clip and see what they say about Diddy right now.
New Year with a jailhouse meltdown, at least according to some new reports. All this comes as the disgraced singer spends his first holiday season behind bars, and a judge rules one of his accusers can remain anonymous. By now, you're well aware that 55-year-old Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy, is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. He's facing federal charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The charges came down in September when a grand jury indicted Diddy, half a year after those federal raids were first performed on his homes. Since he was booked, Diddy has made several bids for bail, hoping to get back to one of those homes or an apartment on New York's Upper East Side. Just last month, Diddy's team officially put in its third attempt for his release, asking that he be put on house arrest. The defense originally wanted Diddy to be held on house arrest at his Star Island mansion in Miami, Florida, one of the places that was actually raided way back in March. But Judge Arun Subramanian shot that down pretty quickly, and it was decided if Diddy was granted bail, he'd be staying in New York, specifically on the Upper East Side in a three-bedroom apartment. That bail would have come with a $50 million price tag and some major restrictions on Diddy's house arrest. Inside the apartment, there would be 2 live-in guards and another guard downstairs. Diddy wouldn't be allowed to access any phones or the internet unless it was used to contact his legal team. And on top of all of that, there would be a vetted list of people approved to visit Diddy, including his legal counsel and, of course, his family. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said there was a 0% chance that Diddy would be violent if he was released, and even called the bail package a, quote, very, very rigorous set of conditions. This part is wild. He said it was even more strict than the MDC jail. But Judge
Yeah, but at the same time, Diddy, man, he think he above the law. You see what I'm saying? He be calling people from jail, trying to call shots still. So they kind of like don't want to let him out, bro. They kind of like think he's very intimidated. He'd be intimidated witnesses. That ain't good for him.
Sub-Romanian, he didn't bite on that, and Diddy's bail was denied for the third time. According to a report from the Daily Mail, that's why Diddy had a breakdown. A person close to him apparently said, quote, spending the holidays behind bars was a nightmare for him. If we're to believe all this, Diddy had a meltdown in his cell and begged the guards to take him to the hospital for observation, but they refused. This same friend or
I wonder why they refused to take him to the hospital. They probably thought that nothing was wrong with him. He was just faking, faking the funk.
person told the Daily Mail, quote, he eventually managed to calm himself down with the meditation technique he's been using while he's been behind bars. It took him a few hours of deep breathing and focusing to get out of the bad space he was in, but he finally managed it. This isn't the first time Diddy's mental health has come into question while he's been at MDC. When he first arrived, he was on suicide watch, which the U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Corrections describes as supervisory precautions taken for suicidal inmates that require frequent observation. Diddy's suicide watch was only temporary, though. He was housed in a special protective unit of the jail after that for the first few weeks of his stay. But
Can you imagine being in prison or jail? You know what I'm saying? You used to live in a king life. Like, you know, you used to do what you want to do, go when you want to go, come when you want to come. You know what I'm saying? No, you got to be restricted where you can go, even from eating caviar to bologna sandwiches. You know what I'm saying? That's something you ain't gonna get accustomed to that easy. You know what I'm saying?
Diddy right now is in Gen Pop, meaning general population, the place where majority of the inmates stay. And that's where he apparently had this meltdown over the holidays, at least according to one source. Another source, though, disagrees with all of this. They say Diddy is staying strong in jail despite missing his family a great deal at Christmas, which is a time he often spends with his children. But however Diddy spent the holidays, there are still a lot of questions in the case of Sean Combs. So we're turning now to former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani to talk all things Diddy. Nima, thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Of course, Sierra. Thanks for having me as always.
Now, some of the reports are that P. Diddy had a breakdown or meltdown over the holidays when he is still at MDC behind bars. What do you make of those reports? Could he have had this meltdown?
I believe the reports, and obviously Diddy is someone who's rich and famous and has lived a life of luxury for many years, and now he's in federal prison.
See what I told you? You're restricted. You can't do what you want to do. You can't call no shots no more. You can't blackball nobody.
During the holidays. So this isn't someone who's a hardened criminal who has spent a lot of time in custody. So the fact that he's spending Christmas and New Year's and future holidays in prison is probably finally getting to him. So I'm not surprised that he cracked.
You're right. It's definitely a change of tune from his lavish mansions and the holiday season to what he's experiencing right now. As far as the mental health side of things, I remember when Diddy was first arrested, he was put on suicide watch. So obviously, keeping tabs on his mental health. Here in this instance, he apparently was asking for the guards to take him to the hospital so he could be treated there. Is this something that we're going to keep an eye on? Diddy's mental health behind bars?
I think so. And obviously, we haven't seen him, but your colleague Elizabeth has reported that, he looks like he's lost some weight and he has.
Shit, I'll lose weight myself too. The brother worried, man. The brother not used to being locked up. So I mean, anybody would lose weight.
Some more gray and white hairs. I think it's taken a toll on him. And I think that he
Yeah, the man's stressed out. You're not used to his lifestyle. Tell him when to take a shower, tell him when to eat, tell him when to go to bed. That's a lot of stress. What about his kids? What about his mom? That's a lot of stress on the man, man.
expected for some reason that he would be out on bond. And obviously that hasn't happened. There were three different bail applications that were denied by three different judges, and ultimately they withdrew their appeal. So now that it's hitting him that Diddy's going to be in custody at least until May 2025, I think is just having a tough time coming to terms with it because, like you said, here's someone that had multiple private jets, homes in New York, Miami, Los Angeles, and all of a sudden his only home is his
Prison cell. It's crazy.
prison cell, and he's not getting the Christmas dinner with his family that he had. And we all saw the video of him having to spend his birthday in prison as well.
You talked about the bail that had been denied 3 separate times. And a lot of people are saying maybe Diddy did have this meltdown because he expected at this point, heading into 2025, he would be back at home, at least on house arrest. You also mentioned how his team has withdrawn their appeal. Why do you think that is? They just kind of accepted that Diddy's going to be in jail until at least the jury trial?
I think they saw the writing on the wall and the fact that, Judge Subramanian would probably be the best judge just because he's a Democratic appointee. He doesn't have a criminal background as a defense attorney or a prosecutor. So here's not someone that has a really pro prosecution perspective. He considered this bail application for 2 hours and he still denied it. And normally, when a district judge or a magistrate judge hears a bail motion, it's a de novo standard, which means for the first time.
Let me tell you right now, Diddy best bet is to take a plea deal. He take a plea deal, he'll probably be out in 10 years. You want to play hardball, take him to trial. They find him guilty, he probably looking at 20 years. You don't need that kind of problem. Not only that, you're also going to be broke because there's going to be a lot of legal fees. That's a lot of millions of dollars they're going to be billing you, all them lawyers. Because they don't really care about you like that. They want that bread. The best bet is to take a plea deal.
That means the previous applications, the denials, they don't have any precedential impact. But when you go up on appeal, Sarah, that changes. An appellate court can only reverse a lower court's decision on bail if it's an abuse of discretion. So they really have to defer to that lower court. So the chances of the bail application being granted on appeal were less because of the different standard. And also, we know the application has gotten worse because of Diddy's own conduct while he's in prison. We've talked about how he's used other inmates' pack numbers and he's made these three-way calls allegedly, trying to intimidate witnesses.
You see what I'm saying? Just chill, bro. You doing too much. They're going to get you more trouble. You know what I'm saying? You chill, man. You're doing too much, man. You know them jail phones are recorded. Why would you even try to do that? Stupid, man.
So not only do you have the bail denied because he's a risk of flight or danger to the community, but also because he's trying to obstruct justice and affect the integrity of the proceedings.
A lot going on even behind bars for Diddy. I know we talked, you and I believe, about those allegations that he was using other inmates' phone calls or their lines. You just mentioned it, to talk about things so that prosecutors couldn't listen in. I'm sure that federal prosecutors are still keeping a very close eye on P. Diddy, his communication with the outside world as it.
Yeah, they're waiting for him to mess up. Once he messed up, that's going to be it. They'd be like, I told you you're going to mess up. So your best bet is to keep humble, man. Just keep prayed up.
Were. Do you think they're going to use any of this information at the coming trial?
I do, because if you're a prosecutor, you have to anticipate the defense in the case. And the defense in this case is clear that the sexual contact happened, but it was consensual. So Diddy's defense team is going to do everything they can to convince the jury that even though the freak offs happened, these were consensual sexual acts by adults. So, how can they do this? They can do it through cross-examination to try to show that the victims who are testifying, they're lying. They can try to pay off the victims, either through an outright bribe or a civil settlement. I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything, but these are all possibilities. The government has raised the possibility that Diddy's trying to intimidate the witnesses so they change their testimony, because obviously we know doesn't matter what the victims say in their civil complaints or what they told the FBI or prosecutors. They have to take the stand, testify, and tell the jurors the exact same thing. So if these victims go sideways, either before or during trial, that really helps Diddy and the defense.
Sure.
Hey, all you business owners or any.
Yeah, that's how that works, bro. But you gotta humble, man. You gotta humble, because if you don't humble, bro, you back in a bad position, man.
who were victims in this situation. Is the defense really going to attack that? The fact that these people are bearing all, it's probably going to be very emotional for them or very difficult to talk about on a public stage. Do you think that's something that the defense is really going to focus on?
I think so. We know, at least in the civil complaints, one of the defense strategies has been to out the victim. Some of them want to remain anonymous, right? And the defense, in almost every case, has filed a motion to unmask the identity of the accusers because they think, on the defense side, that maybe people will be more hesitant to come and talk about their sexual assault or sexual abuse at a very public trial. It's hard for victims of abuse. So I do think the defense is banking on that. And we know that some of these acts happened years, sometimes even decades ago. So they're going to point out inconsistencies in any statements that they're making and argue that this shows that they're lying. And we've already seen it with a couple of the victims who have given statements already to the media. One was an interview with CNN. Another victim gave an interview with NBC. That victim, of course, being the Alabama woman who accused both Diddy and Jay-Z. And after those interviews, the reporters and the media outlets saw some inconsistencies, things that were incorrect in terms of
Yeah, once they get that check, they change their mind. The money make they shut up. The money talking bullshit walk.
maybe the dates or the locations of where things happened. And I think the defense is going to use that to say, well, these people aren't mistaken. They're outright lying. And the reason they're lying is they want fame, they want money. So we're going to see a very aggressive cross examination in this case, Sierra.
The story that you brought up about Jane Doe, the woman who's accusing Diddy and Jay-Z from back in the year 2000 when she was 13 years old, that one's huge because a judge in that case just ruled she could remain Jane Doe. So for now, at least, we don't know her name. If that's the case for some of these people that the government is going to call, how will Diddy's team prepare for cross-examination if they're not sure exactly who they are or what the experience was?
So it's a little bit different in remaining anonymous in a civil case. Ultimately, if a case does go to trial, that victim will have to take the stand and testify in a public courtroom. Now, with respect to what the government is going to do in the criminal case, right? The government
Hey, look at that picture right there. They two best friends. Jay-Z gonna make a statement and say, I don't know him like that. We ain't friends at all. We don't hang out. He tripping, man.
is not going to call more than 100 victims. That just doesn't make sense, right? The government is going to pick maybe their 5 to 10 best victims. Obviously, we know the best of all is going to be Cassie Ventura, just because there's a video and she was with Diddy for more than a decade. So she's their star witness. But after that, you want some other victims who are telling the same story of physical and sexual violence. So they're going to want victims that they think are telling consistent cases, victims that won't be beat up too much on cross examination. Maybe that's a bad pun to use, but someone that can withhold the very aggressive attacks. I mean, we've seen just the filings in these cases, how aggressive both Combs and Jay-Z's lawyers have been when it comes to going after these victims. So you want to make sure that if you're a prosecutor, hey, this is someone that's going to hold up, because the entire case really comes down to this victim testimony. I mean, obviously, to the extent that there's video evidence, that's great. That's the best of all, because video doesn't lie.
Let me say this right now. A lot of people ain't gonna be consistent. They're gonna be all over the place. They're gonna be inconsistent. They're gonna be saying one thing and then say the other thing in court. It's gonna be all back and forth, back and forth. It's gonna be a tough case.
But we're talking about
And all because it's gonna be a lot of money being involved in that shit. Gonna be a lot of bribery.
sex acts that happen behind closed doors. So we really need the individuals who participated in them to come and tell their story to the jury. So I think the prosecution, like I said, is going to have maybe 5 to 10 of their best witnesses. So they're going to have to disclose those witnesses to the defense and any prior statements that they've made. Obviously, there's one-way disclosure in criminal procedure. The defense doesn't have to do anything. The prosecution has to give over those names, give over those statements, so the defense will absolutely have the opportunity to prepare for the cross-examination.
We've talked about what we expect from both sides. The fact that Diddy's team is going to say, yeah, we had these freak offs, but they were consensual. And then, as you just mentioned, the incredible testimony we can expect from the prosecution these witnesses that were involved. So that's kind of what we can expect in May when it comes time for trial. But as of now, what are these federal prosecutors doing to prepare and make sure they have an airtight case?
They're really preparing those witnesses, and they're trying to establish one of three things. The difference between sex trafficking and consensual sex is force, fraud, or coercion. They are going through their victims and they're saying, how can I establish force? How can I establish coercion? Probably not so much fraud, right? Because ultimately, this case is about sex trafficking. There's prostitution counts, and prostitution is different. Prostitution just means that the sex happened, but there was an exchange of something of value. But the feds aren't trying this case to convict Diddy of prostitution. They want to get to sex trafficking. So their entire focus.
Yeah, because sex trafficking, that holds a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to send them up the river.
Focus right now is to prove that the sex involved that force or that coercion, right? Was it people being drugged against their will? Was there security? Were there weapons, right? That's why even though he wasn't charged with the weapons violation, they really talked about the rifles, the assault rifles in the indictment. So I think that's going to be the focus of the Department of Justice in this case. How can we improve that force? How can we improve that coercion?
It's going to be interesting to see what they bring forward because it does seem like they have a lot of evidence. I'm glad you brought up the weapons issue because you're right, it wasn't a charge, but it's still in the court documents. Talking about the defense side of things, we've kind of inferred what their plan is, at least what we can expect. But as of right now, this next 5-ish months, what do you think the defense team is doing to prepare for the trial?
I think the defense has to go one of two ways. Either this was just purely consensual. I think that's going to be tough because I expect that there will be sex workers involved. I think they're probably going to go and say, listen, this happened. There were payments made, but no one was forced to do this, right? Prostitution is common in every state in this country. And yeah, there were prostitutes there and they were paid. But no one was forced. No one was coerced to do this. They did this voluntarily. They did drugs, they partied, and they had sex. It's a tale as old as time. And I think that's what the defense is likely going to argue in this case.
I think a question on everyone's mind is what kind of story is Diddy going to tell? Because we haven't heard much from him since his arrest or even since the federal raids, which kind of gets me thinking, could P. Diddy take this stand? Is that something he would do? Obviously, it's up to him himself, the defendant in the case. But what do you think? Do you think that would be strong for the defense or not a great idea?
I don't think it'd be a good idea.
I don't think it's a good idea because, the video,
Told you, ain't gonna be a good idea.
especially the 2016 video of him beating Cassie Ventura.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, he's a liar. He lied, said he didn't touch her. No, the video came out. They ain't gonna believe nothing he said. So you're not gonna be credible.
So bad. He's going to get destroyed on cross examination. If I'm defending this case, and I wouldn't defend this case, a very difficult case, but if I were, I would just focus on going after the victims and cross examining them. I think that's the only chance that Combs has. Because once you take the stand, the entire case comes down to the defendant's testimony. It's a very risky proposition in a case like this where there's so much evidence against him.
As you pointed out, though, there are decades of accusations against P. Diddy, so he would probably have to go back into his brain. Okay, this was the year 2000. Here's what happened. I mean,
He couldn't possibly remember all that. That's a lot of years. Let's see if he can get some of them tapes.
I think you're right. I don't think we're going to see him on this stand. I am wondering, though, if we're going to see other celebrities on this stand. Jay-Z is a name that we've recently heard in that Jane Doe filing, the woman we were just speaking of. She
Jay-Z always say he don't know him like that. I don't know if he's gonna take the stand.
now named Jay-Z as one of the alleged rapists. Could we hear from him or other high-profile witnesses?
It's certainly possible. Anyone that attended one of these freak-offs, and certainly if they participated in it, should absolutely have their lawyer on speed dial because they can be called as a witness. And, Jay-Z has been identified. There's been Celebrity B, who's also named in that same civil complaint as a witness. So I think we're going to hear more and more names. Obviously, there's a lot of rumors and speculation out there. I don't want to repeat that, but I believe where there's smoke, there's fire. And I expect there to be more celebrities named in civil lawsuits soon.
That's something everybody's wondering. Who are we going to see that's called as a witness?
I'll be honest with you because Diddy been doing this for over 10 years, and most celebrities have been to his house. They've been know what's going on. They keep it on the hush hush. You see what I'm saying? So it's not no secret. They know he been doing this, but it's like a cult. They don't want to tell on him because he could blackball them. You know what I'm saying? So they keep it on the hush hush, but they've been know.
When this does go to trial. And as of right now, it's set for May, which is interesting because Diddy was arrested and charged back in September, so less than a year from that point until he goes to trial. What do you think? Do you think this May trial date is going to stay, that everyone can be prepared in time for that?
I think so. I think unless we get a superseding indictment charging sex trafficking of minors for
I'm gonna say this. It's gonna be very interesting to see what Jay-Z gonna say. You know what I'm saying? No, he already make a statement to his lawyer says he don't know Diddy like that. It was just like a co-worker or whatever, and they showed up at the Grammy Awards and stuff like that, but they don't hang out. He's not his buddy, so it's gonna be real interesting what's gonna happen.
for instance, or some of these obstruction of justice counts related to witness tampering. I think Diddy wants to go to trial as quickly as possible because he's in custody. I think it would be a very different story if Diddy was enjoying his freedom, even if he was under house arrest. We probably wouldn't see a trial until 2026. But being in custody is a major motivator for people to push their case to trial as quickly as possible. And as we've seen and heard, I don't think Diddy's doing too well in custody. So I don't think he's going to continue this just for the sake of doing so.
Really strong case from the prosecution. We can expect the same from the defense. Obviously, a story we're going to follow then.
Yes, sir. I'm out of here, man. Y'all make sure y'all subscribe and like the video, man. Share this video. Peace out.